The hall of the Intergalactic Academy was silent. Students from many worlds sat in their places waiting for the exam results. Some had shining blue skin, some had wings, some had faces covered with strange markings. And among them was one human student sitting quietly with worry in his heart. He was nervous, very nervous. He knew that this exam was important. If he failed, he might be sent back to Earth in shame. Humans were still new to this academy, and most aliens did not respect them. At the front of the hall stood Professor Zayler. He was tall, with a body made of shining crystal, and eyes that glowed like small suns. His voice was deep, echoing across the hall. He looked at each student one by one, until his eyes stopped on the human. "Your performance was weak," the professor said. The human student's heart sank. He wanted to speak, to explain, but the professor raised a crystal hand. "However, I will give you one chance to pass," he continued. The hall grew colder. Other students leaned forward with curiosity. Some whispered among themselves, laughing softly. "A chance? For a human? Impossible," one alien whispered. Professor Zayler stepped closer to the human. His crystal form sparkled under the lights. "You will not pass by normal answers or simple numbers," he said. "You must complete a requirement, one that no other student has ever faced." The human felt his throat dry. "What requirement, Professor?" he asked carefully. The professor's glowing eyes did not blink. Instead, he leaned down and whispered words only the human could hear. "There is an artifact hidden in this academy, deep inside forgotten chambers," Zayler said. "Bring it to me before the final dawn cycle and you will pass." The human froze, unsure if he had heard correctly. "An artifact? Forgotten chambers? What did that even mean?" The professor straightened his tall body and turned away. He spoke loudly so all could hear. "This human's success depends on the artifact," he declared. "Without it, he fails." The hall erupted with noise. Students gasped, shouted, and laughed. Some pointed at the human with mocking smiles. Others whispered about danger, curses, and death. The human stood, trying to be brave, but inside, he felt lost. He had come here to learn mathematics, science, and alien languages, not to go hunting for mysterious objects in forbidden places. Still, he could not refuse. If he failed, Earth's name would be a joke across the galaxy. And deep inside, he also felt a strange pull. A small voice told him this was not just about passing an exam. That night, he sat in his dorm room, staring. At the ceiling, the stars outside the window blinked like eyes watching him. "What artifact?" he whispered to himself. "How can I find it when I don't even know where to begin?" Then he remembered something. In the library, there were old records untouched for years. Perhaps they spoke of hidden chambers. Perhaps they spoke of things the academy wanted students to forget. He decided to go. The corridors of the academy were silent at night. Shadows stretched long across the alien walls. Strange sounds echoed. Clicks, hums, whispers. Maybe just machines, maybe not. When he reached the library, the doors opened with a slow creak. Inside, shelves rose high, filled with glowing data crystals and floating books. The air smelled of dust and old secrets. He walked carefully, his footsteps soft. He searched the records hour after hour. At last, he found something. A page glowing faintly blue. It spoke of the Chamber of Origins, hidden below the academy. It said the chamber was sealed, protected by puzzles no alien could solve. But there was one strange line. It said, "The path will open only for human eyes." The student's heart beat faster. Was this why the professor chose him? Was this why he gave the task? Suddenly, he heard footsteps. He hid behind a tall shelf, holding his breath. 2 alien students entered, whispering to each other. "The professor has given the human the impossible task," one said. "Yes." The other replied, "No one has ever returned from the Chamber of Origins." The human felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to run, but he stayed quiet until they left. Then he looked again at the glowing page. He now had a direction. He had a chance, but fear filled him as much as determination. What was in the chamber? Why did only humans have the key? He rolled the page and hid it under his clothes. Tomorrow he would begin his search. The artifact was waiting, but so were secrets, dangers, and perhaps death, and somewhere far above. In the crystal office of Professor Zalar, the alien watched, the human through hidden screens, and whispered to himself, "Let us see if humanity is truly ready." The next morning, the human student woke with heavy eyes. Sleep had been broken by strange dreams. He had seen glowing doors, voices whispering his name, and shadows moving in endless halls. When he opened his eyes, he felt the dream had been more than just imagination. The page he had stolen from the library still glowed faintly under his pillow. Its strange blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. He took it out and read the words again. "The Chamber of Origins lies beneath the Academy, and the path opens only for human eyes." His hands trembled. Why only humans? What made his kind different from the hundreds of species at the Academy? He wanted to ask Professor Zalar, but he knew the professor would never explain. This was his test, his burden, and maybe his trap. He left his dorm quietly. The corridors of the Academy were filled with early morning light. Alien students moved in groups, some flying, some floating, some walking on many legs. He walked alone. Feeling the weight of every stare on his back, whispers followed him. "The human won't last," one alien said. "He will be food for the shadows." Another laughed. But he kept walking, head down, trying not to listen. He reached a hidden stairwell behind the library. The page glowed brighter when he stood there. He touched the wall, and to his shock, glowing lines appeared. The stone melted away, revealing a secret path downwards. His heart raced. He looked around. No one was watching. With a deep breath, he stepped into the darkness. The wall closed behind him, and the air grew cold. The staircase twisted deep into the ground. The walls were covered with strange carvings, symbols of stars, planets, and battles long forgotten. He traced them with his fingers. Some symbols shifted and changed as if alive. At the bottom he found a heavy door. It was carved with glowing words he could read, though no alien could. "Only the seeker of humanity may enter," it said. His breath caught. This was no ordinary chamber. He pushed the door, and it opened with a long groan. Inside was a vast hall, dark but alive with whispers. The air smelled of metal and dust. Shadows moved even though there was no wind. He stepped forward carefully. In the center stood a platform with 3 glowing stones. Each stone shone a different color: red, blue, and green. A voice filled the chamber, low and echoing. "Choose, human," it said. "Only one stone leads forward. The others bring danger." His heart pounded. Was this the first test? A choice with no guide? He closed his eyes, remembering his dream. He had seen a blue light shining in the dark. Trusting the dream, he reached for the blue stone. The moment his hand touched it, the other 2 stones shattered into dust. The platform shook. The blue stone melted into his palm like liquid fire. It left a mark on his skin, a glowing circle that pulsed like the page from the library. The whispers grew louder, almost screaming. The floor opened beneath him. He fell into another chamber, landing hard on the cold ground. When he stood, he realized he was no longer alone. 2 alien students were there, waiting. It was his rival, a tall reptilian named Sarek. Sarek's eyes burned with jealousy. "So the human thinks he is special," Sarek hissed. "You will not pass this test because I will stop you." The human's stomach turned. "Why are you here?" he asked. Sarek laughed, showing sharp teeth. "The professor allows more than one to try, but only one may succeed." The rival stepped closer, claws scraping the floor. "This chamber is not for your kind," he growled. "The artifact belongs to my people, not to Earth's weaklings." The human stepped back, but the blue mark on his hand glowed brighter. The chamber lit up, showing walls filled with ancient machines. Some looked like weapons, some like broken ships. But in the center of the chamber was another door, sealed tight. It had symbols glowing on its surface. Shifting like living fire, the human stepped forward. The door symbols shifted into words only he could read. Human blood will open the way, it said. He gasped and looked at his glowing hand. Sarek saw nothing, only a wall of symbols he could not read. He snarled, "Open it, human, or I will tear you apart." The human hesitated, his heart racing. This was the true test, his rival, the door, the danger, and the secret of why humans were chosen. He pressed his glowing hand to the door. Light exploded across the chamber, blinding both students. The door began to open with a terrible sound, and beyond it something vast and ancient stirred awake. The whispers rose into a scream. The rival student covered his ears, but the human stood frozen. Inside the door was not just another room. It was a prison, and something inside had just noticed him. The chamber shook as the door opened wider. The glow from the ancient prison burned across the walls. Strange patterns danced on the floor like living snakes. The human student felt his heart race, his hand still glowing with the mark of the blue stone behind him. Sarek, the reptilian rival, hissed with rage. His yellow eyes narrowed, his claws digging into the ground. "You dare touch what is not yours, human," he growled. "This power belongs to my people, and you will not take it." The human took a step back, but the glowing door pulled at him. A force like invisible hands dragged his body closer. He felt the whispers pressing into his mind, calling his name. It was as if the chamber itself wanted him and no one else. Sarek leapt forward, claws ready. The human dodged, rolling across the cold floor. The rival's claws scratched sparks from the stone. The echoes of his anger filled the chamber. "You think the professor favors you?" Sarek spat. "But he only uses you. He knows you will fail, and when you die I will claim what you found." The human clenched his fists, the blue mark burning like fire. He did not want to fight, but he could not escape. Suddenly, the door behind them rumbled. A burst of cold air swept through, carrying a sound like a heartbeat. Both students froze, their eyes drawn to the dark opening. Something was moving inside. "Slow but heavy," the human whispered. "We shouldn't be here." But Sarek only laughed, a cruel, sharp laugh. "This is perfect," he said. "Whatever lives in there will eat you first." He shoved the human toward the light of the opening. The human stumbled forward, almost falling. The whispers in his head turned into clear words. "Do not fear, you are the key, you are the chosen." He gasped and touched his glowing hand to his chest. The voice spoke again. "The others cannot hear me, only you, human." He looked at Sarek, who was still smirking. Yes, the rival heard nothing, saw nothing but shadows and walls. But to the human the chamber was alive with voices and light. Suddenly, from the prison, a giant shape began to crawl out. It was made of shadows, tall and twisted. Its eyes glowed red like burning coals. Chains of light clung to its body, but they were breaking one by one. Sarek froze at last, fear flashing in his reptilian eyes. What is that?" he stammered. The human had no answer. The whispers screamed inside his head. Seal it before it is free." The blue mark on his hand burned brighter. He raised it without thinking. A line of light shot from his palm, striking the chains. The monster roared in pain, shaking the ground. Sarek turned to the human, rage mixing with fear. You control it? That power is mine," he screamed. He lunged again, trying to grab the human's hand, but the mark burned hotter, blasting Sarek back across the floor. The rival hit the wall hard, groaning in pain. The human stood shaking, shocked at what he had just done. Had the mark given him power, or had the artifact itself chosen him? The voices whispered again. "Only you, only human." But the monster inside the prison was still breaking free. Its shadow stretched across the chamber. The chains snapped like glass, one after another. The human realized he had only moments left. He pressed his glowing hand to the door again. The symbol shifted, burning brighter. The door began to close slowly, but the monster forced against it. Its claws reached through, slicing the air near his face. Sarek rose, anger twisting his features. "You close it now, but next time, human, I will be ready," he spat. He turned and ran toward a side tunnel, vanishing into the dark. The human was left alone, struggling against the weight of the monster's power. With all his strength, he pushed the mark into the door. Light exploded, filling the chamber. The monster roared one last time as the door sealed tight. The whispers faded, leaving silence so deep it hurt his ears. The human collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. His glowing hand dimmed but did not disappear. He stared at it, trembling. "What am I becoming?" he whispered. But he was not alone. From the shadows, small eyes blinked. Other alien students had been watching from hidden corners. They whispered among themselves, fear and curiosity mixing. The human touched the door. One said, "He survived," another replied. "No one else could do that," a third voice added. And their whispers spread like fire through the academy. When the human climbed out of the hidden stairwell hours later, the sun of the alien world was rising. Light touched the tall towers of the academy, and already he could feel the stares of every student. Some were filled with awe, some with jealousy, and some with fear. But all of them knew the human was no longer ordinary. High above in his crystal office, Professor Zayler watched through glowing screens. His crystal eyes reflected the image of the tired but alive human. The professor's voice was calm, but inside it carried deep interest. "Yes," he whispered to himself. "The first test is complete, and humanity has taken its first step." The human student could not forget the chamber. Even after leaving its dark walls behind, the whispers still echoed in his mind. Every time he looked at his hand, glowing faintly with the mark of the blue stone, he felt both fear and power, and he knew the artifact was not just an object, it was alive. That day in the academy halls, whispers followed him like shadows. Some students stared in silence, others mocked him louder than before. But now their laughter sounded weaker, touched with unease, because the rumor had already spread. The human had faced the Chamber of Origins and survived. He walked alone, carrying the weight of their eyes, and though his steps were steady, inside his heart was a storm. What was the monster he had seen? Why had the voices spoken only to him? And why had the professor, the crystal-eyed teacher, chosen him for this dangerous trial? He decided to confront the professor. Perhaps it was foolish, perhaps it was brave, but he needed answers before the whispers drove him mad. So with clenched fists and steady breath, he climbed the shining steps to the professor's office. The door opened without sound. Inside, crystal walls reflected the morning light in 1,000 colors. Professor Zaylar stood at the center, tall and unshaken. He turned slowly, his glowing eyes locking on the human. "You returned," the professor said, his voice calm as stone. The human swallowed hard. "I closed the door," he said, "but something was inside, something ancient, something dangerous." The professor tilted his crystal head, almost curious. "And it spoke to me," the human continued. "Not to Sarek, not to the others, only to me." He raised his glowing hand, the faint mark pulsing. "Why? What secret is hidden here? Why only humans?" His voice trembled with anger and confusion. For a long moment, the professor did not answer. Then his crystal body flickered with strange light. "You are not ready for the full truth," he said. "But I will tell you this, the artifact chooses. It has always chosen, and this time it chose you." The human shook his head. "That's not an answer, Professor." Zaylar's voice dropped, cold and sharp. "Answers are earned, not given," he said. "Your trial has only begun, and if you survive, perhaps you will understand." The human clenched his fists. He wanted to shout, to demand more, but deep down, he knew the professor would reveal nothing more. Not yet. Not until the next test. Leaving the office, he felt no peace, only heavier questions. As he walked, he noticed a group of alien students waiting. Their eyes were narrow, filled with fear and suspicion. They stepped aside but whispered words that cut like knives. He touched the door. One hissed, "No alien can trust him now." Another muttered, "He is cursed." A third voice whispered. The human walked past them, silent, but their words clung to him. That night he returned to his dorm. The stars outside the window blinked coldly. He sat at his desk staring at the glowing mark on his hand, and then he heard it again. The voice of the artifact. "Do not fear, human," it whispered. "You are the bridge, the only one who can hold back the darkness." His chest tightened. "What darkness?" he asked softly. The voice did not answer. It only pulsed in his mind like a heartbeat. Suddenly, his door creaked open. He spun around, his heart racing, and there stood Sarek, the reptilian rival, his eyes burning with rage, but his claws were not raised for attack. Instead, he carried a wound across his chest, bleeding dark green. The human froze. "What happened to you?" he asked. Sarek staggered inside, his voice rough. "You think you are special," he growled, "but the chamber's monster marked me too." He pulled aside his scales, showing a dark scar glowing faint red. The human's breath caught. The monster had touched Sarek as well, but not with choice, with curse. And the rival's eyes held not only hatred, but also fear. "We are both trapped now," Sarek said. "Your secret is mine, and mine is yours." The human stepped back. He did not know whether to pity Sarek or prepare for another fight. But before either could speak more, the voice in his mind whispered louder. "He carries the shadow, you carry the light, and soon the two will clash." Sarek clenched his claws. "You may have the professor's favor, but remember this. I will not let a human be above me." He turned sharply and limped away, leaving drops of green blood on the floor. The human stood frozen, his thoughts tangled. What had the professor set in motion? What secret was hidden behind this dangerous test? He looked again at his glowing hand. The mark pulsed brighter, as if answering his doubt, and the voice returned, softer now, almost like a whisper of comfort. "Do not give up. Human, you were chosen for a reason, and soon you will see why." The human sat down slowly, his body heavy with exhaustion, but sleep would not come. The professor had secrets, the rival had his curse, and the artifact had its own voice. And somewhere deep below the academy, the sealed monster still waited, far away, in the crystal chamber of Professor Zaylor. The professor watched the glowing images of both the human and Sarek. His crystal face was unreadable, his voice a faint murmur. "Two paths, one destiny, and the secret will soon reveal itself." The human woke before the first bell of the academy. He had barely slept, his mind still crowded with whispers and warnings. The mark on his hand glowed faintly, even when he tried to hide it under cloth. It was no longer just a mark. It was like a living eye, always awake, always watching. He stepped into the corridor, the halls cold and silent. But silence did not mean safety. He felt eyes following him, steps echoing behind him. He turned quickly, yet the shadows dissolved before he could see who was there. The voice of the artifact whispered in his mind, "Be careful, human, danger walks close, the enemy hunts in secret." He clenched his fist, his breath shaky. "Who is the enemy?" he asked softly, but the voice did not answer. By the time the second bell rang, the halls were crowded. Aliens of every shape and size filled the corridors. Some looked at the human with open hostility, others with silent fear. Rumors of the chamber had spread like fire, and now no corner of the academy was free of whispers. Then it happened. From the crowd, a hand grabbed his shoulder, pulling him hard into a side corridor. He staggered but managed to stand, and standing in front of him were 3 alien students, their eyes sharp with threat. One was tall with metallic skin, one short with insect-like arms, and the last wore a mask of bone. They blocked his path, surrounding him with cruel smiles. "The human thinks he is special," the one with the mask said, his voice dry like dust. "You touched the forbidden chamber, and now the whole academy is watching you." The human tried to step back, but the metallic one shoved him hard. "You will give us what you found," he demanded. "We know the professor sent you for the artifact, so hand it over." The human shook his head, his voice trembling but firm. "I don't have it," he said, but the insect-armed alien hissed, "Liar, your hand glows with its curse." They stepped closer, claws ready. The human's chest tightened. He had no weapon, no plan, only fear. Then the mark on his hand flared with sudden light. A shockwave burst from his palm, pushing the aliens back. They crashed against the walls, stunned but not broken. The human stared at his glowing hand in disbelief. The voice of the artifact whispered again. "Run, human, they will not stop. More will come, run." He obeyed, sprinting down the corridor as the three shouted in anger. The chase had begun. He ran past classrooms, past towers of glass and crystal. Alien students turned to watch, some cheering, some laughing, some gasping in fear. Behind him, the three attackers followed faster than he expected. The insect one climbed along the walls like a spider. The metallic one crashed through doors with heavy strength, and the masked one glided like smoke. The human's lungs burned, but he kept running. The voice guided him. Left, now right, down the stairs, faster. He obeyed every word, his feet moving as if the academy itself shifted to open a path. But still the hunters gained on him. He burst into a gravity hall, a strange chamber where the floor and ceiling twisted. Here, gravity was not stable. It changed with every step. He leapt forward, landing on a wall, his body pulled sideways. Behind him, the hunters stumbled, their balance breaking. He used the moment to climb higher. But the insect alien scuttled easily across the shifting surfaces. It lunged for him, claws flashing. The human swung his glowing hand, and the mark released another wave of light, knocking the creature away. The chase continued into the crystal. Gardens, tall plants of light shimmered, their leaves sharp as glass. The human pushed through them, the edges cutting his arms, but behind him, the masked alien sliced through the plants like paper. "You cannot run forever, human," the masked one hissed. "Give us the artifact and we will let you live." The human clenched his teeth. He did not believe the words. He knew they wanted more than his life. The artifact's voice grew louder. "Trust me, I will guide you, I will save you." "Why me?" the human whispered desperately. "Because you are the only one who can hear," the voice replied. At last, he reached the outer training grounds. The wide open space left him exposed, no walls to hide behind. The three hunters spread out, circling. Him like predators, he stepped back slowly, sweat running down his face. Then, without warning, another figure appeared. It was Sarek, the reptilian rival, still scarred but alive. He stepped into the circle, his voice sharp. "Leave him. This prey is mine." The hunters looked at each other, uncertain, but Sarek's burning eyes left no doubt. He was serious. "You think we fear you?" The metallic one growled. Sarek showed his claws, glowing faint red with the monster's curse. "Try me," he said, his voice like stone. The hunters hesitated, then slowly retreated, disappearing into the shadows. The human stood frozen, staring at his rival. Why did you help me?" he asked. Sarek snarled. "Do not mistake this for kindness, human." He stepped closer, his voice low. "I saved you because your path and mine are now tied. The monster's mark burns in me as well, and I will not let others steal what belongs to us." The human's chest tightened with unease. Sarek leaned closer, his eyes sharp. "Remember this. I will protect you from them, but in the end, I will take what you have." Then he turned and walked away, leaving the human trembling in the empty grounds. The chase was over, but the real hunt had just begun. High above, Professor Zelar watched from his crystal chamber. His eyes reflected the images of both the human and Sarek. He whispered to himself, "The pieces move into place, the secret nears its awakening, and soon the chase will lead them both to the truth." The human student did not attend his morning lessons. His body ached from the chase, and his mind was heavier than ever. Every corner of the academy now felt dangerous. Every whisper felt like a blade. The mark on his hand burned faintly, never silent, never resting. He sat alone in the empty library, the blue page of the chamber lying before him. He read the same lines again and again, but the words seemed to twist, changing each time he looked. "The path will open only for human eyes," it repeated, as though mocking him. His thoughts returned to Sarek. The rival's scar glowed red, a curse born from the monster's touch. Both of them carried marks, but his was light and Sarek's was shadow. Two paths bound together, two secrets tied by fate. Then the voice of the artifact spoke in his mind again. Human, you must seek the truth, only then will you understand your burden. He clenched his fists, whispering back, Where do I find it? Who will tell me? The voice answered only with silence. At last he decided to do the unthinkable. He would return to Professor Zayler, not as a student begging for mercy, but as someone demanding answers. The climb to the crystal office felt longer than ever, and when the door slid open, the professor was waiting as though he had known all along. You come with questions, Zayler said, his voice echoing like a distant storm. The human nodded, though his knees trembled. You sent me into the chamber without warning, he said, his voice sharp. You knew something was inside, you knew it would mark me. The professor's crystal eyes glowed brighter. You survived, he said simply. That is more than most could do. The human's anger boiled. But why me? Why humans? What is this artifact really? For the first time, Zayler turned fully to face him. His crystal body shimmered with colors too strange to name. Very well, he said. You have earned a piece of the truth. He raised his hand, and the walls of the office shifted, transforming into a window of stars. The human gasped. Through the window, he saw not just stars but images of battles long ago. Armies of alien ships clashed against a shadow that blotted out the light. Worlds burned, and countless voices screamed, in silence. This was the war of the first darkness, Zayler said. An enemy older than memory, a shadow that consumed galaxies. The human stared, his chest tight. And the artifact? He asked softly. Zayler's glowing eyes turned toward him. The artifact was a prison, forged by the oldest races, to bind a fragment of the shadow, he explained. But a prison weakens with time, and cracks appear, and the darkness always seeks to return. The human swallowed hard, remembering the monster in the chamber. It was not just a dream, was it? He whispered. The thing I saw, the chains, the roar, it was real. The professor nodded slowly. Yes, and it reached for you because you are human. The words struck him like thunder. Why humans? He demanded. Zayler's body flickered with light. Because the shadow cannot touch you. As it touches others, it fears what it does not understand, and your kind is its opposite. The human staggered. Opposite of the shadow. A chosen enemy of something ancient. It felt impossible, yet the mark on his hand pulsed as if agreeing. He whispered, So this test was never about an exam. The professor's voice rumbled low. No, the exam was a veil, a way to measure if you could bear the mark. And, now you carry it, proof that humanity may yet be the key to survival. The human's breath shook. But why keep it secret? He asked, his voice breaking. Why let me stumble blind, hunted, cursed, almost killed? Zayler's gaze turned, sharp. Because truth without trial is weakness. Only through struggle can strength be proven. The human wanted to shout, to argue. But deep inside, a part of him understood. The fear, the chase, the whispers. They had shaped him. And now he stood here, marked stronger than before, still. Doubt gnawed at him. What about Sarek? He asked suddenly. He carries the shadow's curse. He said it burns in him too. The professor's light dimmed. Yes, Zayler said slowly. The shadow marked him. Not by choice, but by hunger. He will be a vessel if he allows it. A rival tied to you by destiny. One light, one shadow. The human's heart sank, so the rivalry was no longer just about pride. It was about survival. Zayler stepped closer, his crystal hand resting near the human's shoulder. The truth is this. You are not fighting for a grade, or for Earth's pride, he said. You are fighting to keep the shadow sealed, and soon the seal will break. The human trembled, his breath shallow. Can I stop it? He asked quietly. The professor's voice carried no comfort. You can delay it, perhaps, but the darkness always returns. The question is whether humanity will rise or fall when it comes. The human's chest tightened like stone. Silence filled the office. Then the professor spoke again, softer but sharper than before. The next test will show if you are truly chosen, and this time the academy itself will not be your enemy. The darkness will. The human closed his eyes, the mark on his hand burning brighter than ever. He whispered to himself, "The truth is heavier than the lie." And far away, in the hidden chambers below, the sealed monster stirred again. Its chains cracked louder, its roar echoed faintly through the halls, and the academy trembled, though most did not yet know why. The human student stood at the highest balcony of the academy. The twin suns of the alien world dipped low, painting the sky in gold and crimson. Wind swept across the towers, carrying the whispers of 1,000 voices. Voices of students who feared him, hated him, or secretly admired him. The mark on his hand pulsed brighter than ever. It beat like a second heart, each glow echoing with the voice of the artifact. "You are close, human," the voice whispered. "The seal weakens and the moment of choice arrives." The human closed his eyes, trying to steady his breath. Down below he saw movement, alien students gathering, their faces filled with unease. The rumors had reached every corner of the academy. Some now believed the human was cursed, others that he was chosen. But among them stood Sarek, his rival. The scar across his chest glowed red like burning coal. His eyes locked on the human, hatred and fear mixing like poison. The shadow's mark twisted inside him, pulling him closer to the darkness. That night the professor summoned the human. The crystal office glowed faintly, the walls alive with shifting light. Zayler's voice was colder than before. "The time has come," he said. "The artifact is awake. The seal is cracking and you must choose your path." The human stepped forward, his voice trembling. "What choice?" he asked, though deep down he already knew. The professor raised his crystal hand. A glowing image filled the room, the sealed chamber. Chains breaking one by one. "The artifact will soon be free," Zaylar said. "If you take it, you will carry its burden. You will be bound to fight the shadow whenever it returns." The human's chest tightened. "And if I refuse?" he asked. The professor's eyes glowed darker. "Then the artifact will search for another, but there may not be time, and the shadow will rise unchallenged." Silence pressed against the walls. The human felt the weight of the galaxy pressing on his shoulders. He thought of Earth, far away, small and fragile. He thought of his family, of humans who had never seen these alien stars. They did not know the danger, they did not know the darkness waiting, and yet they depended on him now. The artifact's voice echoed louder in his mind. "Take me, human, and I will give you strength beyond imagination. But know this, the strength will also be chains. You will never walk free again." The human's hand trembled. Was he ready to sacrifice his freedom, his future, everything he dreamed of, just to hold back a shadow no one else could fight? Suddenly the doors burst open. Sarek stormed in, his claws glowing faint red, his voice sharp as a blade. "No," he snarled. "The choice is not his alone. The shadow calls to me too, and I will claim its power." The room shook with his rage. The professor stepped aside, silent, watching. The two rivals faced each other, light against shadow, hope against hunger. The human whispered, "Sarek, this will destroy you." But Sarek laughed, a broken sound. "Better to be destroyed than forgotten," he spat. "The galaxy will remember my name, not yours, not Earth's weak child." His claws struck forward, aiming for the human's glowing hand. The two marks collided, blue light against red shadow. The explosion of energy shattered the crystal walls. Light and darkness twisted, filling the office with thunder. The professor's crystal body flickered, but he did not move. This was the test, and it had to play out. The human staggered back, the artifact's voice screaming in his mind. "Choose, human, choose now, or all is lost." He clenched his fists, his heart racing. If he hesitated, Sarek would seize the artifact and unleash the shadow. In that moment, he remembered the whispers, the chase, the truth. Every trial had led him here, every scar, every fear, every question. And the answer was clear. He could not walk away, not while the shadow breathed. He thrust his glowing hand forward. Light poured from his palm, brighter than the sun's. It wrapped around the artifact's unseen heart, binding it to him. The voice of the artifact cried out not in warning but in acceptance. You have chosen, human. You are mine, and I am yours. The blue mark spread across his arm, burning like fire and ice together. His body shook, his knees buckled, but he did not fall. The light steadied him, raising him tall. Sarek screamed, his red mark twisting with pain. The shadow rejected him, pulling back into the sealed chamber. He collapsed, groaning, his eyes filled with rage and despair. The human stood above him, glowing like a torch in the darkness. The professor finally spoke. So, humanity accepts its burden, he said. Know this, student. Your path is no longer that of an ordinary scholar. You are now the guardian of the seal, the enemy of the shadow and the hope of your people. The human's chest rose and fell, his voice low but steady. I accept, he whispered. The artifact pulsed in agreement. Chains of blue light wrapped around his glowing hand, forming a bond that could not be broken. The seal below stopped cracking, the monster's roar fading into silence, for now the danger was pushed back. But the professor's crystal eyes carried no comfort. He whispered to himself, words not meant for the student's ears. The shadow always returns, and this was only the beginning. The human turned toward the broken balcony. The stars stretched before him, endless and cold. But now they no longer looked distant. Now they looked like a battlefield waiting for him. He raised his hand, the glowing mark shining against the night, and he whispered, not to the professor, not to Sarek, but to himself. I will fight, I will not run, because I am human, and humanity was never meant to kneel. The voice of the artifact pulsed in reply, and the story of his burden had only just begun.